Greetings! Here is your Project 2 critique, and we're going to start with Jessica's images here. Go to the album and look at Project 2. The other one would be the draft. Alright, so focusing, of course, on shutter speed here. And, of course, aperture and shutter speed work together, also in conjunction with ISO. But looking at this image here, I like the composition, though everything seems kind of blurry, so that's unfortunate. We had though it's a 1.1 second exposure, so I don't know if the dog moved, but it's more likely the camera moved. I'm guessing you set it on the carpet, and you're probably trying to hold it still, and it just caused a lot of camera shake. So, it ends up as, to me, one of those images that was a good idea, well composed, but technically didn't make it. This is a little bit more interesting, though. It also has quite a bit of blur, but we get some things that seem a little sharper. I actually kind of like the interaction of, I'm guessing there are two dogs here, the white one down here and the brown one here. And I kind of like their movement, but again, we have another case where things are just kind of blurry. Now this image, to me, feels like there's a flash on it, and yes, the flash did fire. And we have 5.6 at 0.3 seconds. So definitely a fairly long exposure, though the exposure is done nicely, and the flash does pick up some nice, like the bits of water really, gives them a really different texture than if you didn't have the flash on there. So I think, again, the image is well composed. There are interesting things going on. I kind of like the photograph, though to me I don't know if it quite pushes it up to that level of art, but definitely well thought out and well composed and well exploring. And that is our primary emphasis here. Black and white, I'd almost like a little bit less density on the hands, make them a little bit lighter. I kind of like everything else, the density of everything else. But that would require us to selectively go in there and do that, and it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's certainly not impossible. But we just don't have time to get in that level of detail in class. All right, so now we're doing, I'm going to guess we're trying to pan here. We're at 1/60 of the second, though the truck's moving fairly quick, so camera's having to follow. Technically well done. I do think in many ways panning is one of the most difficult things to take an interesting photograph of. This one's well composed and there's some nice light there. I don't know, maybe it's just me for the subject. It doesn't drive me to really ooh and ah, but we're just all individuals. So, but it certainly does what you need to do as far as technical exploration. Painting with light, looks like we have the fireworks and quite a bit of exploration here. I'm always drawn more to images where we have an interaction of the real and the sort of created. And we get a little bit of some here, creating interesting forms, and I've played with sparklers and painting with light too, and it has such a nice texture. I like the form here and how it somewhat mimics the figure behind it. I would love to see a little bit more of that figure, if they were able to flash this figure, pop up your camera on, camera flash, and then draw in front of it and have this interaction between those two. If that were a bit more overt, I would, probably react more positively towards it. That can be one of to me, the biggest challenges of painting with light is, I don't know why, I like a photographic interaction between these things. Now this image, I see some real interesting stuff. I'm actually more interested in what's going on over here in the hands that are holding this image. I almost want to go in here and I just want to crop this image and just look at the hands here. I think that, because I like what I see. I like how the sharp, soft, and it could maybe, keep a little bit of this. But if I came in here and let's see, I'm trying to find an appropriate balance. I'm going to go square format. That's, to me, I find I like this interaction. I like the texture. I like the hands. And I like seeing a little bit of this action over here too. I find that a little bit more engaging. It's probably, the hands were probably incidental. It's just that light coming off that captured that. But that's what I'm finding actually the most interesting part of that series. So, all right, but I mean, good exploration and painting with light. Definitely see the potential. I like this texture that you've created over here. To me, it'd be like more interesting for a face or something interacting with that. But I mean, good job in exploring these things, and I think we'll move along here and get another critique in here. So, all right, let's take a look at Janelle's work. And get the album and project 2. All right, so as I look at these things, I'm actually kind of drawn to the VW bus photograph. I'm going to guess this is part of the panning. 1/6 of the second, 5.6. Kind of like this image. I like how we have just this sharpness here. It almost feels more like a panning with zooming in and out. I don't think that's what you did, but it feels that way just a little bit. I think the color, I don't know if I like color better or black and white. I like the composition. Maybe maybe the colors aren't disharmonious here, but they're not like really working well together. They're working pretty well. So maybe I lean a little bit more towards the grayscale because I like the values and contrast, and it seems a bit more cohesive. And it also tends to put an emphasis on texture, and then we have this nice sharp texture and then a soft texture all around it. I get more of a sense of movement here, so I really react positively to this photograph and the panning elements of it. Here's a more definitive panning. I like this. This almost feels like a car commercial. I'm much more drawn to the Volkswagen van. Maybe it's just the subject matter, and the new car isn't as exciting to me, but I actually do kind of like the feel of this image. It has a sense of speed, and like I said, feels like almost car advertising. The other composition seems much stronger. This one just seems to have more stuff in it that is extraneous to what I want to look at and focus on. I like the how I just see this car and the house and the road and all these horizontal lines whizzing by. And when I get to this one, the lines are more diagonal. There's this other car, and it just seems a bit more cluttered. So I do prefer that previous image. Now here is just the everyday task of vacuuming. What a boring, mundane task. But I really do kind of like this photograph of it. What's interesting to me in this is actually there is just a rich textural feel to it, which I don't often see or think about when I look at color. To me, that's the biggest difference between color and black and white. It was with color, the emphasis is predominantly on color. It's such a dominant psychological visual element for us as humans that when we take that out, it suddenly often shifts this emphasis to texture, which is something I think we spend less time looking at. And so that's that advantage of black and white. Shoot.